Thank you for selecting my SQL Server 2014 Express playlist. The point of this video series is speed, brevity, and clarity. Goal is in under 10 minutes, you have the outline to complete the lesson. Each video will have a corresponding blog post. You can find the link to my WordPress blog in the video's description below. Where appropriate, I'll redirect you to my GitHub account to download files and save you time. So why are we here? We're here to download and install SQL Server. SQL Server 2014 Express is the free version of SQL Server, and there are restrictions. Database size is limited to a maximum of 10 gigs. CPU power is limited to the lesser of 1 socket or 4 cores. SQL Server 2014 requires Service Pack 1 on Windows 10 and .NET 3.5. And you need to install Service Pack 1 of SQL Server 2014 Express when you're using Windows 10. So if you go to my blog, you're going to see 2 links. The first link tells you about Microsoft SQL Server, and the second link is to Service Pack 1. Once again, you need to install Service Pack 1 because if you don't, SQL Server Management Studio isn't going to work properly, in my experience. So, let's take a look at the first link. The first link talks about Enterprise and Standard and Business Intelligence. They all cost money, and Express, which does not. If you compare the technical details, this link's going to take you to the description, and this one has them in order of power. Express is the weakest one. Express with tools, Express with advanced services. This is the one we'll be downloading. Web, Standard, Business Intelligence, and Enterprise. Enterprise has everything, and of course nothing in this life is for free, so it's very expensive, but we'll be able to learn a lot just with Express Advanced Services. So back to the link, you can see this is where we download it. It'll open up this link. You go ahead and click download, and it'll pop up this link. You want the 1.4 gig, the full-blown everything. This is the 64-bit. If you have a 64-bit operating system, if you've been following me with the sandbox, you know that we're using 64-bit Windows 10. So 64-bit SQL Server Express Advanced 64 and in English. And we'll go ahead, click next. And it'll start to download. When it's finished downloading, I highly recommend that you save it locally. If you need to get to it again, you can easily if you save it locally. If not, you have to go through the whole download, and the download takes, time depending upon your internet connectivity. Once you've downloaded the extract, which is 1.4 gigs, and you've saved it locally to your SQL and Downloads folder, you're going to need to start it up and extract all your files. Right mouse button, click on it, and pick Run as Administrator. It'll ask if this is what you want to do. Say yes, of course. SQL and Downloads, this is the extract where it's going to be. Say OK, and away the extract starts. Making progress. So you launch it as administrator. It did the full extract. Once it did the full extract, now it's going to launch the installer. We can see the installer. One of the things we might want to do is go back to planning and be able to system configuration checker. I'm a little paranoid. Can't hurt. Once again, one of the things that I've observed is even if you do the system configuration checker and run through the steps, it does not seem to have the check for .NET 3.5 in it. So you'll get along to the install, and then it'll just fail with please install .NET 3.5. So it's of course good for you to make sure you have .NET 3.5 installed. If you don't know how to check for .NET 3.5, search for it in Google. It'll tell you to launch regedit. You launch regedit, you go through the steps, and you're able to see that they've got 3.5 installed. So everything's good there. Let's go to installation. And we're going to pick new SQL Server standalone installation. SQL Server 2014 setup. I accept the license terms. Customer improvement. It's a 90-day trial. What's the point? Rule check in progress again. Everything should clear. And now it's working through the steps here. See, install setup files. That's where we are. Got the following remaining. So it's filling everything out. All this stuff should be checked. going to say our instance root directory, shared features, all that looks good to me. We're going to take the default. I will call out though, when you're doing this setup, if this was a real SQL Server install, not for learning but for production, on a physical server you would want to place the log files and the data files on separate physical drives for maximum performance. So let's say next. We're going to install with a named version. It's especially smart if you're going to be using installing this on your main learning laptop. That way when you install the next version of SQL Server they won't conflict. I always like to give the version as part of the name. So in this case 2014. Then we'll say next. Database engine, SQL Server reporting services, that is the basically XML based reporting that retrieves and pulls the data out of the SQL Server. Say next. I took the default collation. There's different sorting algorithms, whether you want to treat uppercase and lowercase is different or the same. That's what the collation was, but we're just going to take the default. Default's fine. This Windows authentication mode versus mixed mode. If you do mixed mode, there's something called your SA account, your SA account or system administrator account. Would you put the password in there, and that password would be stored in SQL Server rather than in Active Directory. Active Directory is the operating system's secure password storage and a whole bunch more. So we're going to do Windows authentication mode. Say next. We're going to install and configure. Say next. And we're rocking and rolling. Installation progress is moving quickly, at least for you. So progress is being made. It's moving along. Yeah, frankly, this part is the part that's going to take the longest, so go ahead and take a break if you're following along and doing the steps with me. And it's almost finished. So we're almost done installing. Just to call a couple things out while we're waiting. SQL Server runs in the background as a service, so that means it doesn't have a user interface. SQL Server Management Studio is the T-SQL interface to that database server. It allows you to create databases, tables, populate them, retrieve information, modify information, basically practically everything, except for the reporting piece, which is SSRS. So we're going to make sure that that interface starts up in this video as soon as it finishes. And here we go. Looks like we finished. Just waiting for it to clean itself up and produce the log file. Let's take a look how we did. Management tools, that's the SQL Server management tools that I was telling you about. Connectivity, SDK, backwards compatibility, we're not going to care about that. For this one, reporting services native, yes, I'm a fan, as you can tell, hopefully by this. Alright, we look good, excellent. So we should be installed. So let's take a look at our apps. Go to the M's for Microsoft, SQL Server, dun 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 dun. So we want SQL Server Management Studio. That's the icon. Yep, click on that. Let's make sure it starts up. So it's loading user settings. It'll take a few minutes. would you look at that? So it's asking us to connect to the server that's on our local workstation. This is the name of the laptop. Actually, it's really the name of the virtual instance that's inside of the sandbox. And SQL Server Express 2014 is the name of the SQL Server instance on the box. So we'll say connect. There you have it. It's like magic. All right. Thanks for listening. Let's move on to the next video and start using SQL Server.